On this week's episode of G2's Fishing Frenzy, we're heading north where few people ever venture. More specifically, we're heading to Canada's Northwest Territories, recently made famous by the TV show Ice Road Truckers. Little Martin Lake is our destination, and we are here to find fish. We're fishing for the pike that live here and get rewarded with exciting footage of them striking our lures and baits. Lake trout also inhabit these waters and are not forgotten about, as we hook and catch them using the underwater cameras and fighting them from above with our rods and reels. We also find the grayling, which is a species that is ubiquitous to the north and unique in design for lakes and streams. There's caribou on the banks as we are traveling to the fishing locations or after arriving there, and the untouched waters are irresistible to anyone who loves fishing. And it starts right now on this episode of G2's Fishing Frenzy.
Well, I got the call from Steve West with Steve's Outdoor Adventures. That's the booking agency we use with G2's Fishing Frenzy. He said our next stop was going to be the Little Martin Lake in the northern reaches of Canada in the Arctic Circle, not too far from the Arctic Ocean. And my first response was probably the same as what a lot of you are thinking, in that, great, where's that? And but upon a little further research and talking to Steve a little bit more, I actually got excited. The lake where we are is actually kind of a virgin lake as far as fishing goes. It's primarily used as a caribou hunting camp. And so after talking to Steve and finding out, the species that we're going to go after are pike, which I love pike fishing, lake trout, which I've honestly never really done before, and grayling, which I haven't ever done before, I got excited about getting up here. The first stop on the trip was Yellowknife. Yellowknife is a town of about 20,000 people in the middle of absolutely nowhere, but it acts as basically the hub if you're trying to get to anywhere in the northern reaches of Canada.
Right, so that's Yellowknife, and then Little Martin's where this red pin is. So when you guys were talking there outside, as you can see, we got a lot of lakes in this country. Little Martin Lake, we've been there probably 15 years as a caribou hunting camp.
So we spent the night there, got up the next morning, and headed for the float plane. And the float plane is a neat deal. If you haven't ever gotten to do that, this would be a great way to experience it. You get on the plane, take off the lake, take off the water, and head out towards the camp. It's neat. It's really neat because you get to fly pretty low, and you can see the vast expanses of the region, the area around you, and the lakes, and the streams, and the rivers that connect everything, and it truly is a fisherman's paradise. There was the camp, and I gotta be honest with you, when talking to Steve, I was a little nervous about the accommodations and about the food and what we were going to have to eat and have to sleep in. But upon arrival, I have to say that for where it's set, it's pristine. It's awesome. So day one rolls around, and we're off on our first day of fishing. And like I said, I am excited. This is an awesome place. Just absolutely pristine, and I'm ready to go. And we get out there, we decided to do a little testing, and some of that testing included checking the water temperatures. Checked with our hands, felt pretty warm. We brought depth finders with us that also check water temperature, and the temperature was pretty steady to 64 to 65 degrees, and that's actually really hot for this time of year. And so we decided to go in search of some deeper holes that might be holding fish, because these fish are used to cold weather. They're not used to 64 degrees. They're used to 40 degrees. So that's what we went after, and boy, we were not disappointed.
G2's Fishing Frenzy, Sponsored by Steve's Outdoor Adventures, professional hunting and fishing consultants. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. G2's Fishing Frenzy, sponsored by Optic Nerve, eyewear for the outdoors. Stormcloth 2, performance thermal outerwear.
We're going to fish what they call the North Rapids. Again, I'm going to go ahead and assume that there are some rapids there. Dennis said we're running about 5-10 minutes more. We got to run around this corner that's up here, head back to the north a little bit, and we should be there. So we decided to go head towards some of these rapids that we had heard about that were supposed to hold the grayling. So off we went, and the grayling, I gotta tell you, the grayling we found. Outstanding grayling fishing. The guide said, Dennis, the guide, said a lot of times these fish will hang out at the bottom of the rapids. So we're gonna hop out, take a little walk down this little shoal, get at the bottom of these rapids and see if we can't find some fish. I'm gonna follow the man with the gun. Dennis, this looks great.
Yeah, what you're going to want to do is cast in this pool area here in the ripples.
Okay.
Should be grayling, trout in there, no problem.
Okay. Well, right now, fishing with a G2 custom rod, a light action rod, and a little Clio, silver, and with an orange chartreuse split half. I don't know what you actually call that coloring pattern. It's got some orange on it. And using 6-pound test line off of this Fluker President reel. And we're just casting out into this eddy water, the water that's kind of pooling behind the rocks at the bottom of these rapids, and see if we can't hook up with grayling or a nice sized trout. Little grayling. There we go. I wish I could really put into words these rapids that we're fishing. We come into the rapids are an area of the lake that kind of dumps into another area of the lake, and so we come in from the top side, park the boat. We have to get out and walk because obviously we can't take these big aluminum V-bottom boats down these rapids. So we get all our gear out. We walk to the bottom of the rapids, and the guide says that's a good place to start, and we're just going to kind of fish our way back to the boat. Quit it. Went over around one of these big rocks that's out here, and then I let it suck it in behind, and it was sitting behind that big rock. Let's do it again. This one feels a bit better than the first one. And he spit it. That is it's the joy of barbless. There we go. Hooked up. Guide wasn't lying. The fish are at the bottom of the, out there at the bottom. We got hooked up on this PJ's finesse bait. It's a small, it's a 1/8 ounce marabou jig. The color pattern is it's got some white, a lot of chartreuse pink, and a little bit of green. It's colored up to look kind of like a rainbow trout. It's also got some flashing in it. Gives it a nice little sparkle in the water. Jig just slides out like that. And there's that big fin. And he's ready to go. So try to hold on to him. Yeah. They're holding just behind where that rock is sticking out there. And what this jig does in the water is that marabou, you just bounce the rod tip and that current is making that marabou dance around like that. Makes it look like it's alive. Let's get another one. Trout. Woo!
G2's Fishing Frenzy, sponsored by Spot, Live to Tell About It, and by Underwater Salmon Astonishing Egg Bites video. Sponsored by Steve's Outdoor Adventures, professional hunting and fishing consultants. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
An animal that I had never seen before up close, and I'd seen on TV and seen in magazines, and you're like, yeah, that's a pretty animal, but you really don't get the full effect of it until you see this beast in person, is the caribou. You know, we were trolling along, and our guide kind of kills the motor and points out over to the shore and is pointing out a caribou. And you know, my first thoughts, because I'm a whitetail boy, is that wow, look at the rack on that thing. That's a shooter for sure. And he quickly corrected me and told me that was a really small caribou and that I was insane for even thinking about shooting it. But they really are magnificent creatures. Their antlers, the fact that they grow these giant antlers just to lose them every year is astounding. It's incredible. It's awesome to see. And then out of nowhere comes this pike. This pike comes and takes a big swipe at the bait and a swing and a miss. So we're kind of disappointed we didn't get to hook up. It was awesome we got to see it. We were kind of talking about it a little bit. And then right after that, what happens? Another pike comes up and just hammers this trolling spoon, hook up, get the fish in the boat. It was awesome. It was awesome to see the fish get to hit underwater and they get to fight the fish up to the boat. It was really a pretty neat thing to see. To change it up a little bit, we're going to do some fishing using the underwater camera. This was my first experience with the underwater camera. It's a really neat deal where we actually get to film the bait under the water and we get to see the fish that are coming up and biting at the hook and swarming all around it. But it takes some getting used to. I'll be honest, because there's a lot of times when you're watching, you're set on that camera and completely throwing away everything you've ever been taught about fishing with feel. And boy, it's all sight fishing, but it's sight fishing at 40 feet of water. And man, you're watching it, and it's all he's got in his mouth, and you set the hook, and there's nothing there because he was just nibbling at the back of it. The fishing has really picked up, and Sam and I were watching the fish on the underwater camera. So you got to see that awesome hookup. I'll go ahead and say this is a good fish, by the way. P.S. We were watching these fish on the underwater camera. I've had the tendency, let's be honest with you, to be a little bit of a premature hook setter when watching the fish on the underwater camera. It's difficult. It is extremely difficult to not go ahead and set the hook. But this dude came in when he sucked it in. There was absolutely no doubt that he had it, and he is a good one. Got him in the boat. We'll go ahead and turn him loose, get him back in the water. For the next person to come up here and catch him. These fish are extremely healthy, hardy fish. That's the way it's done on Little Martin Lake. Every year for the last 7 or 8 years, my dad and I have been able to take a trip together, usually to someplace pretty exotic. We go to Brazil, we've been to Canada. Now we're up here on Little Martin Lake, way, way up in the Arctic Circle. It's been a beautiful trip so far. We're gonna go do a little fishing together today. Gonna go fish for some lake trout, maybe some grayling this afternoon. But let's go. Sam, the producer, was up, he took a nice little hike up to the top of this mountain behind us to get some good shots. But I tell you, he's been missing some awesome shots down here because we have, once again, just been hammering the lake trout. Jigs with little sucker belly. There's another one. This makes 2 doubles on the same fish. I hooked up, Dad hooked up. Now I've hooked up again. Kind of demonstrate how fast these fish are hitting. You just cast out, drop this jig down. I'm using a PJ's 3/4 ounce bucktail jig, and you let it get to the bottom, crank it up 4 or 5 cranks, because these fish are sitting in about 40 feet of water. And cross his eyes. Using a little bit lighter rod today. I'm using a medium heavy instead of the big heavy fast action. This is a medium heavy, medium fast, and they give you a fight, that's for sure. This feels like, I hate saying this feels like it might be a little bit better fish because he is wanting to stay way down on the bottom. Dad's actually fishing with even a lighter rod. It's a more stout rod, but it's a medium fast action, and it's a product that we have that's called the Ultra Weave. The circular strength and power in those rods is about 10 times what your standard rod, like what I'm fishing with, is. I can actually, at 260 pounds, I can jump up and down on that rod, and nothing happens. It won't crush.
That was good. Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
So we're watching the underwater camera, we're trolling around with some of these big spoons, and up from the depths comes this big lake trout. We call him Big Nasty because this guy fell from the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down. Kind of felt sorry for him. And so he comes up and we're getting excited. He's swimming behind the bait, and he comes up and he sniffs it and he backs off, and he comes up and he bumps it and kind of backs off. And he swims up again, and then I don't know if this fish had some mental problems or what, but he basically committed fish suicide and turned right into the hook. Unfortunately, hooked him right in the back of the head, but hey, fish on.
G2's Fishing Frenzy, sponsored by Optic Nerve, eyewear for the outdoors. Stormcloth 2, performance thermal outerwear. G2's Fishing Frenzy, sponsored by Spot, Live to Tell About It, and by Underwater Salmon Astonishing Egg Bites video.